السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. We continue inshallah ta'ala with the book of Fadl al-Islam in the subject of Al-Aqidah. And the next chapter is titled باب قول الله تعالى فأقم وجهك للدين حنيفا فطرة الله التي فطر الناس عليها. This chapter has many evidences. We won't be able to finish the entire chapter inshallah ta'ala today. He mentions 3 verses and then maybe 8 or more than 8, 9 evidences, hadith and text from some of the early generations of Islam. And the title of it, فَأَقِمْ وَجْهَكَ لِلدِّينِ حَنِيفًا. Make your face upright to this religion, hanifan, swerved away from shirk and associating partners with Allah. فطرة الله التي فطر الناس عليها. This is the fitrah, this is the natural way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created the people with. So basically the title of this chapter, or the objective of this chapter, is the command from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the order to be steadfast upon the deen of Islam and to be firm and steadfast upon it. And that the deen of Islam is the deen of al-fitrah, is the deen of the al-fitrah, is the natural way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created the human beings with. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created the human beings with certain things that all of the human beings they have. The fact that they, not just physically, but also the non-physical matters. That all human beings, they even if they don't practice it, but they know that justice is a good thing. They know that truthfulness is a good thing. This is something that you don't need to help people to think of it in a good way, even if they're not upon it. But this is something in their fitrah. And the deen of Islam is the deen of al-fitrah, as the Prophet ﷺ said, as it's going to be mentioned inshallah ta'ala, which is basically the tawheed, the oneness of worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, since it's in every human being, the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the Lord of the alameen. This is present in every human being, and whoever denies this, it's because of things that happen to the human beings, whether it's arrogance or the culture that he's in, or the ways of his fathers and forefathers, and many things. But this is a need by necessity, is present in every single human being, which is basically religion, to have a religion, to believe in the creator of the heavens and the earth. And then once the messengers of Allah, their message is presented to them, to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone. This is what fits the fitrah perfectly. Also, as we would see in the chapter, the warning against the bid'ah or innovations of the deen, as it's also been mentioned before. Because once you are upon what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from you, you're not going to be left alone. And as important as the fact that we need to be upon the truth, we have to make sure that we stay away from the falsehood. That means that there's actions has to be done to stay away from falsehood. That what negates a sunnah is al-bid'ah. As we said, al-Islam huwa sunnah. The deen of al-Islam is the sunnah. And the sunnah has many different ways that it's when it's presented. One of which is it's basically the entire deen of al-Islam. And that's something that I also want to mention, which is important, and we need to take notes of this. That sometimes the word al-Islam, as-sunnah, when it's mentioned, it refers to the Quran also. How can that be when the Quran is the Quran and the Sunnah is the way of the Prophet ﷺ? If the Sunnah is mentioned alone, it refers to the Quran too. Because the way of the Prophet ﷺ was what? What was the way of the Prophet ﷺ? كان خلقه القرآن. As Aisha radiallahu anha, she said, the manners of the Prophet ﷺ was the Quran. So the Prophet ﷺ was upon the Quran and the Sunnah, which is the other form of wahy, revelation from Allah to the Prophet ﷺ. So that's why the word Sunnah can refer to the Quran, and the Sunnah, and the Quran can also be referred to the Quran and the Sunnah. So when you find in some statements, we need to hold fast to the Quran, we need to have sufficiency in guidance, seeking guidance from the Quran. It does not mean the Quran only. And none of the early generations of Islam would understand it this way. It refers to the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. It's like basically someone would say to you, hold fast to the Quran, but don't understand it. Just interpret it the way you like. This is deviation. This is not a good command. The command is to hold fast to the Quran. If you just say hold fast to the Quran and follow the Quran, meaning follow the proper understanding of the Quran, which is by the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ and the early generations of Islam. So here the evidences will give this meaning of being firm upon the deen of Islam, and the fact that this is deen al-fitra, the deen of al-fitra, and to warn against al-bid'ah. So the first evidence, as we heard, فَأَقِمْ وَجْهَكَ لِلدِّينِ حَنِيفًا. This is a command from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make your face upright, and there, when it refers to the face, it refers to the face and the body and everything else, that you would submit your face to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the meaning of going forward. And the word al-iqbal ala Allah, when someone is going forward to something that he cares about so much, and he's walking towards it, he's facing it, he's focusing on that thing that he is going forward to. This is how it's supposed to be to the deen of Islam. That your move, your life, you're going forward, you're submitting yourself to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because this is what fits your fitra. It fits your nature. فطرة الله التي فطر الناس عليها. This is the fitrah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that even the word fatar, that he created the people normally and naturally with it. And therefore, anything opposes this would take away from that purity of the submission to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.